Hello and welcome to episode 62 of the Think Liberty podcast. On this episode, I'm joined by Caitlin Cloven and Matthew McGowan, and we talk about lies, hoaxes, false claims, things of that nature. We talk about AOC and some of the rhetoric she uses and what that does to political discourse, and what discussion about false claims would be complete without having to mention the almost 9,000 of them that Donald Trump himself has made. We talk a bit about the Smollett case and Dianne Feinstein getting raided by a bunch of rabid AOC fans. And we finish it off with 19 hoax hate crimes that have occurred during the Trump era. This one was a little bit more laid back and a little bit more of a kind of flowy discussion, which is a nice break from the heated philosophical discussion that we had last week. So there you have it. We hope you enjoy the show.
And there was a time in this country, a long time ago, when reading wasn't just for fags, and neither was writing. People wrote books and movies that had stories, so you cared whose ass it was and why it was farting, and I believe that time could come again.
Hello and welcome to episode 62 of the Think Liberty podcast. I am your host, Jane Doe. And joining me on this episode, we have Matthew McGowan. Matthew, how are you?
Good, sir. How are you?
I'm well. Thanks for asking. And we are also joined by Caitlin Cloven. Caitlin, nice to have you back.
Yeah, it's good to be back. I've been moving, and I'm buried under 25 feet of snow up here in Minnesota. Yeah. So I haven't been on in a few weeks.
Wow, moving and a storm. That's exciting stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I moved my office to a space that's not closed anymore, so it's hard to get like good soundproofing. So I've had to sit out a couple episodes because of my kids.
Yeah, I know the feeling. That's why.
Yeah,
I've said it before here on the podcast, but people that listen, we usually record at night and late at night. I'm on the West Coast, which makes it a little tougher for my friends that aren't, which is basically everybody. So thank you guys both for joining me at the odd hour that we end up recording on. It is much appreciated.
My pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's my pleasure. Happy to have you. Glad to have you. You guys make the show better. So man, I feel like every time we get on here, there's just so much to talk about and so much that's gone on. I wanted to spend some time going over, I mean, in light of the Smollett case, is that how you pronounce his name, by the way? Smollett? Does anyone know the proper way to get that one out?
Sounds good to me.
I honestly don't know.
Yeah, I
think it's Smollett. I don't know.
Smollett. I thought it was too. Like I thought I was I was good with that. I thought I was confident in the way I pronounced it, but leave it to a hot mic on this show, and then people start pronouncing things wrong. It's actually been what we do consistently from episode 1 is fail to pronounce things correctly. So that's good that we're keeping it the same. I saw an article with a Daily Caller, and it's got these accounts of it. They basically someone went and took a list, and they put together all of the hoax hate crimes that have occurred in the Trump era. And like kind of looking at this really got me thinking about stuff and about just kind of how easy it is for lies to not be lies anymore these days. I'm not sure if that makes any sense to you guys, but it's like when I say that, I mean it like I'm sure each and every one of these situations that's in this Daily Caller article have popped up as headlines somewhere at some point, and people are usually really, really eager to share them. And aside from the Jussie Smollett case, we normally don't hear about when it turns out to be a hoax. I feel like with him, it was the case because he's like, he's a popular figure, so that one wasn't really going to go away. But like, when was the last time you saw an article or like a news outlet that corrected itself and that was shared as much as the initial hoax was, or something along those lines?
Pretty much never.
Right.
Well, retractions aren't as sensational as the fake hate crime.
Right. Well, because the retraction doesn't really do much for a narrative, except for the other side, right? So there's, like, when we saw the Lincoln Memorial thing, I feel like, I guess it's who's doing the sharing, right? So when, like, the Lincoln Memorial thing happened, what did we see? We saw a bunch of headlines from the big outlets, right? Like the Washington Post or whatever, and the BuzzFeed and all these other outlets. They were really quick to share that little 2-minute video, or I think it was like the 2-minute video that pretty much towed that line of like, oh, these terrible kids were surrounding this guy and all this. And then people shared when it was, you know, we had figured out that it was wrong, but you didn't really see a lot of these outlets that were quick to say anything about it. I mean, most of them were like, look, even though it wasn't right, the sentiment's still correct. Or something silly like that. You hear this stuff kind of talked about too. Like if you heard AOC, I'm sure you've heard all the times lately where she's been like, so what if I'm wrong sometimes? You know, like I'm coming from the right place.
Right, because she's morally correct.
Yeah.
Not factually correct, but she's morally correct, so it's fine.
Right. And that's, oh God. It's a terrible position to take.
We could get into, you know, what morals she's using there and how they contradict seemingly almost everyone else's morals, but, you know.
Well, what's terrifying about her is, you know, with any other democratic socialist of her kind, is they're prescribing ideas that affect everybody, you know, and that's where you start to worry about it. Did you guys see that tweet from her not too long ago? I think it was the 22nd.
Is that the one where she's in charge now? Yeah. So
someone said, let's see, it was a tweet that she replied to, is what I have. She said, it's really simple. Here's the tweet that she replied to. It's really simple. If you've got well, I couldn't read it because it's not written well. I'm just going to read this verbatim. So if it sounds weird, it's because it was written weird. It's really simple. If you've got a better than what AOC is offering to combat climate change, please show it. If you're a member of Congress who can effectively address climate change better than the Green New Deal, show your receipts. Make an effort. And she retweets it and said, yep, if you don't like the Green New Deal, then come up with your own ambitious, on-scale proposal to address the global climate crisis. Until then, we're in charge, and you're just shouting from the cheap seats. There's so much wrong with this.
You know, and stuff like that, sometimes I wonder if they believe their own bullshit. Like, you know, are you saying that because you know the reaction you're going to get, and it's going to keep you...
The funniest part of that is she called it on scale. Which it's not on scale at all.
No.
Green New Deal is ridiculous.
No,
it's crazy. It's crazy. And I mean, just like, not even in a position to pick that thing apart right now. I don't have it in front of me. I'm not trying to go page by page and point by point. But like the larger thing is, right, is like, since when... It's just a scary rhetoric that she has, right? Because it's a rhetoric that says no longer are people in government public servants, right? Now I know, like, we're libertarians and anarchists and all that, and so, you know, fuck government anyway. But even then, right? Isn't the whole idea supposed to be that government is there to serve the people, right? Last time I checked.
That's a rumor.
I mean, we all know it's what's that?
It's supposed to be, according to the Constitution.
Right. And we all know that's bullshit. Now, I mean, at least she's coming out and saying it. If there's that. Right? Like,
yeah, at least she's being honest.
Yeah, and it's just, the dangerous part is this kind of rhetoric. I mean, I don't want to sound over dramatic or anything about it, but like, I get like legit a little scared when I see her going on, because she's talking about stuff that would have, you know, very real effects on our economy, on the way that people live their lives. You know, the things that she talks about are not like, I mean, I'll give her this. They are ambitious things that she's trying to do. That doesn't mean they're good. They are ambitious. And a lot of what she's trying to do, like I said, it'll affect a lot of people, and she's oftentimes wrong, totally wrong. Totally wrong.
Well,
And
a scientist didn't write the Green New Deal. She did. Like, her and other lawmakers wrote it. It's like you're writing things that is not in your wheelhouse. And like even the leader of like Greenpeace, like the founder of it, before it was bad, he came out and said, if the Green New Deal is implemented, everyone will die. Like, sure, he's probably exaggerating, but if, you know, the founder of Greenpeace even thinks you're full of shit, like, you might need to take a step back and say, okay, maybe some of this is wrong, and I need to, you know, be a bit more humble before I start going out there and saying, well, I'm in charge, you know, shit like that.
I do love this level of discourse, though, where it's like, listen, if we don't implement the Green New Deal, we're all going to die. And then the guy comes out and he's like, listen, if we implement the Green New Deal, we're all going to die. Fuck.
It's been like that for a while, you know, net neutrality. God, I don't remember the other ones. I just remember net neutrality was a big one.
Yeah, how many times are we supposed to be dead by now?
I'm not convinced that we aren't, and that the world didn't end in 2012.
Yeah.
And this is some weird afterlife simulation.
We're going to have Killian do a podcast about that one. We were talking about that with him the other day. That was interesting. Mike, Matthew, I accidentally interrupted you there. What were you saying before I cut in?
I some of the things that they say are so cartoonishly wrong that it almost makes you wonder, you know, are they trolling? Are they trying to, you know, get the next book deal? You can't believe the bullshit that's coming out of your own mouth. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, I think with Acacio Cortez, at least, it comes from, she's got a lot of support. And I think her support makes her real confident. And I think that out of that confidence, she ends up being a little too fast and loose with the stuff that she says. I mean, I'm on here right now on PolitiFact. She's got like a little category for herself. And let's see, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 claims of hers here on PolitiFact. One is mostly true. And that is, in New York City, for every one person experiencing homelessness, there are about 3 vacant apartments. So that was rated as mostly true. Policy. What's that?
Caused by Democratic policy.
Right. That they continue to vote on. And there's one that's half true. 70% of Americans believe in improved and expanded Medicare for all. So that's half true, and then everything else is just false, false, false. There's a pants on fire and a false. I mean, like, you don't. I'm sure anyone listening to this is familiar with how many times she says stuff that's wrong, and it's scary because I noticed a lot of her supporters also echo this rhetoric. Have you guys noticed this as well?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you start seeing those viral videos of, like, there was one where I think it was Feinstein went to a school to talk about, you know, being a politician or whatever, and the kids interrupted her and said, you need to have the Green New Deal or we're all going to die in 12 years. Like, whoa.
Oh no. They came to her.
Your kids repeating this stuff.
They came to her. Here, let me, I have a clip. It's about a minute long. It comes to us via CBS This Morning is where I grabbed this one from. So we're actually going to listen to that situation here. I'm glad you brought that up, Caitlin.
Nice.
So, man, I don't normally, this is tough, right? Cause it's like AOC versus Feinstein. And I'm just like, part of me is like, let them fight. And then, there's another part of me that's like, oh, Feinstein's kind of like, it's hard. Like, I don't even want to say it. I can't even let it come out of my mouth. But if I had to pick a side here, it would probably have to be Feinstein. But anyway, here, listen to the clip and you can decide for yourself what you think.
The San Jose Mercury Press reports on a confrontation between Senator Dianne Feinstein and a group of school children who want her to support the Green New Deal.
Looking at the faces of the people who are going to be living with these consequences.
The government is supposed to be for the people and by the people and all for the people.
You know what's interesting about this group is I've been doing this for 30 years. I know what I'm doing. You come in here,
debatable,
and you say it has to be my way or the highway. I don't respond to that.
The environmental activist group Sunrise Movement posted an edited video on Twitter of the tense meeting. Feinstein told the students the aggressive climate change proposal had no chance of passing in the Senate, and instead she's pushing for her own environmental resolution. She acknowledged she may vote yes on a Green New Deal resolution. The Democratic senator offered one of the students an internship and later called the meeting a spirited discussion.
So there's that.
Okay.
I do love the tone Feinstein took with them. That was nice. She's you're just shaking me down here, and I don't appreciate it. It is interesting.
You can tell she's probably fed up with Cortez.
I think a lot of people are, which I mean, good. You let them eat themselves alive, but it just goes to show, I like this idea that if it's not her proposal, then somehow like that's everyone's going to die. It's like we were talking about earlier, right? Like everyone's going to die. It doesn't matter what happens. Everyone's going to die. If you don't sign this, everyone's going to die. But it just goes to show, I mean, these are young children that are just, they don't want to hear it. You know, they think that they're right. And that's going to be that. And it's, what's crazy is they're like, oh, it's supposed to be for the people. It's like, yeah, but you're just like, you want it for your people. It completely ignores the fact there's a lot of people that don't want that. It's like, how do you reconcile that? Little
if you're going to put something forward
Julie.
like that, like you need to have some pretty hard scientific data to back that up, and you should be able to defend it like wholeheartedly. And they can't.
Which very few people that support it can. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty that do, but they're just kind of. This is where it gets murky, right? Because a lot of people just kind of parrot stuff that they read here and there.
Well, I was going to say that's not that it's new in the past, 3 years, but
right.
Trump has pulled some statistics out of his ass that has people talking about a wall that, I mean, the money that we're spending or that we're proposed to spend on that for the return you get. But people parrot it as if, oh my God, there's this emergency, there's this big deal, these people are coming across in droves, and there's going to be all this chaos, and it's like, what do you base that on, other than your favorite politician telling you?
Right. Well, and then you got the fucking jackasses like Jim Acosta going down to the border where there's a wall, and like he's not making things any better. We've covered this a couple times on the show, but oh God,
that was awesome.
Here I am next to this giant border wall. Everything's fine.
Did you see the story of the 12-year-old reporter who did a story down in Arizona where she was trying to prove the border wall a bad idea? And to do this, she climbed over a barbed wire fence and said, see, even a 12-year-old can get over this wall. It's like, but that's not the wall. That's what Trump's trying to fix.
Oh, no.
It was so funny.
Oh God! Well, speaking of Trump, right? I think he is the one that kind of started this whole thing. If you really want to get down to it, so I was looking it up, and since he's been in office, Trump has made 8,158 false claims. Like it's so many that we can't even really talk about them. It would.
It's comical. It's comical when you read some of his speeches or you catch news clips of him talking, and he says something, and you're like, wait, what? What?
Right.
Damn, dude, it's amazing, but wrong.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, it's one of those things where when people talk about how it's not important to shift the Overton window, or that may not matter, I mean, it's kind of a hard case to make at this point in time, right? Like, you've got someone like Trump who goes out there. You got something like 8,158 false claims. And then AOC comes out. And it's like, if you try to say anything about, they're like, yeah, well, Trump. And I mean, like, very few people pay attention to the fact, or we're sitting there going, yeah, they're all garbage. That doesn't matter, right? It's justifiable to them. It's justifiable. Well,
that's just it, that you get success on one side. And it's funny, you kind of see it from each side at some point. One side will take an extreme position or an extreme tactic, and then here comes the other side to mirror it, and it culminates in Trump and AOC. And it's the scary part is, where does it go from here?
Yeah,
that's ugh.
Yeah, no, that is very scary. And it's scary because it's getting to a point to where it's got now that things have far more to do with political team sports and the narrative than it does like the truth of the matter. And that's something that's really scary.
Well, and you look at something like the Green New Deal and you say, even 10 years ago, would anybody have been crazy enough to put their name on that shit? No. But now you've got people cheering this lady for it. And it's just like, what the hell happened? Where did our brains go? Yeah, as a country? What's
super crazy is that, Senator, I forget his name now, but he was a supporter of the Green New Deal. He was like, he put his name on it, like front and center. And then so McConnell was like, cool, we'll put it to vote. And then the guy was like, how dare you? It's like, what
that's a tactic to get rid of it. And it's like, well, yeah, no shit, because once people vote on it, it's going to be, 500 to you guys.
Yeah. I just thought that was hilarious, right? Like if you support this and you think this is a great thing, then why are you so offended when it's okay, let's vote on it then.
Right. Yeah, let's bring it up for a vote. Aha, see, he's trying to block it. Yeah.
Yeah, how dare you make me vote for the thing that I support?
Everybody. Yeah, this is their old tricks, I guess.
They're all using it for a campaign plot. It's like one of their campaign planks that they're going around, for all these Democratic people running for president.
Do you think it's because they don't want to alienate themselves from her base, right? Do you think that it's a type of situation where even if some Dems don't agree with her policies and her positions, they want maybe a bit of that kind of like crazy fanfare that comes with her, so they're trying their best to kind of toe the line and not risk losing the support?
I think that's exactly what it is. Mm-hmm. I think they want her base. They want the radical Democrats to vote for them. They want that support. So they're going to go out there and talk about these radical bills going in, but they do not want them to go to a vote, because then they'll have to take a hard stance that goes on record.
Right.
Because they don't really support it, because it's ridiculous. I mean, let's be honest, there are some level-headed Democrats. I mean, maybe not to us, but in reality, they're not all insane. So they might just be going around trying to get this, the support from all of these radicals, but they're not going to follow through on any of it.
Yeah, it's awfully helpful when you can say, hey, I support the Green New Deal. I support this. I'm all for it. And these Republicans are repressing us from even voting on it. And then they throw it in your face like, well, here, you can vote on it. Wait, what? No, because they don't want to be put on.
How dare you?
Right. See, they're trying to trick us.
Yeah. They're trying to trick us by making us vote on the thing that we put our names on.
I'm on to you, Republicans.
Tricky. Right. Yeah.
That crafty McConnell, man, I tell you.
Cocaine Mitch.
Yep.
He's just always so excited. So we can move. I mean, we don't need to talk about AOC. Before we move on from her, I do want to say something that's kind of interesting, though, to me at least. Brian Stelter of CNN had this quote that stuck with me when I was putting my notes together, and I wanted to mention it because a bunch of people toe this line. A bunch of people say this, and the mirror, this kind of line of conversation. And what he said was basically that AOC is being questioned so much because the patriarchy is obsessed with her. And so his quote was, she's got a target on her back because she ticks every box that makes conservative men uncomfortable. She's a woman, she's Latina, she's young, she's working class, she's a millennial, she's a democratic socialist. So I think in some ways she's sort of the ideal anti-Trump, and she's threatening white conservative men's power, and they're terrified of her. Sorry, this was a woman who goes by the name of Bassett. I don't know what her first name was. And she added that Fox News was using, quote unquote, all the tricks in the patriarchy to take her down. And you've seen other things like this, like people going after Ben Shapiro because of how much she brings her up. basically anytime like you see a meme of her on the internet or anywhere, anytime anyone talks about her or posts about her, it's at this point, like, it's pretty much guaranteed someone's going to drop in and do like, why are you obsessed with her? Why are you talking about her so much? How come you're giving her press? Why don't you just, and like,
That is the funniest damn claim to me. It's like, you're giving her press. Really? Some guy on Facebook is giving her more press? She's getting the press by herself, by being a loudmouth, by being so vocal about these things that she believes in, that some guy on the internet with, 200 Facebook friends is not really doing anything to put her in the spotlight more. She does that all on her own by saying these stupid things. And I'm not going to refute the whole, I'm going to refute the patriarchy part of it, but the conservative people, obsessing over her, because, they kind of do. But I'm not going to say it's because she's, a Latina female millennial. It's because she says horrible, horrible things that are just so wrong and so just not rooted in any factual basis at all.
Well, look,
dangerous.
Let's turn it around. Why you guys talk about Trump so much? Why? How come? Exactly. How come you talk about Trump so much? What's the deal? Like, obviously, right? Like, when someone is being this boisterous and they're this over the top and they're saying, like, Trump ate almost 9,000 false claims, right? Like, there's a reason that people are talking about it, and it's not because they think they're awesome, right? So, like, it's, first of all, the point you made,
ridiculous bullshit coming out of their mouth.
Yeah, exactly right. And so, and the point that was made by Caitlin just now is absolutely correct. She's going to be there anyway, right? She's on TV every 2 seconds. She's, she's being shared by like Now This and all these outlets, right? It's not as if that sharing a meme about her is how she's getting to fame.
Nope, it was the meme you shared, Vinny.
It was the meme.
That did it, man. That's all your fault.
Yeah, the meme absolutely did. It's ridiculous, right? So what exactly is supposed to happen? You're just supposed to let her take the headlines in and sit back and let her do her thing and say what she wants to say, never speak out about bad ideas, and just, just let it take its course. You've got these kids that are storming politicians' offices demanding that her policies be put into place, and we're just not supposed to say a word. It's fine.
It would be one thing if she had like some really obscure local office and she wasn't really getting press outside of people attacking her. It would be one thing, but she's not. Like, she's in federal office. She's putting forth proposals for the entire country that are going to completely wreck our economy. You have to stand up and talk about this stuff. And the people talking about her are not being like, oh yeah, she's great. It's people saying, hey, her ideas are terrible.
Right.
And there's some people who attack her for stupid stuff like the dancing shit and whatever. Like, they're stupid.
Ridiculous.
But there's plenty to go on there if you want to, jump in and attack AOC on pretty much anything she says. Like yesterday, she did some live stream on Instagram or whatever, saying that having kids now is immoral. Like, you can't morally bring children into this world. Like, whoa, back up. Like, that may be your opinion, but you can't make a moral claim here based on your pseudoscience bullshit,
which is super good. Look, that puts all the confidence in the world in me, right, for the future of this country, when you've got someone who's barking at people about being in charge and they should shut up from the cheap seats. By the way, stop having kids. What the fuck? Excuse me? Like,
especially when she's tried to legislate her moral stances before. Like, it's not a long shot to think that she's gonna put some stupid legislation forward to, I don't know, limit population or some shit. I don't know.
No, we'll move on. I don't want to be I don't want to be a part of the patriarchy that's obsessed with AOC here by spending too much time. Shapiro. Yeah.
Well, it's just the situation, though. You look at somebody like her, and you know that inevitably the Republicans are going to counter with somebody even more insane, which will cause the Democrats to counter with someone even more insane. And it just, where does it end?
Is there even anyone more insane than Trump, though, that they could dig up?
I wouldn't have thought so, but we've got the chick talking about banning cow farts and limiting the number of kids you could have, and seems like maybe so.
I know, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. What's next?
I mean, there are some really out there Republican politicians that have come in the spotlight recently for stupid things they've said, but I don't know. It's going to be really interesting 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, okay. So moving on from her.
Yeah.
Everyone's favorite story we can bring back to life a little bit. You guys remember the Ken Kavanaugh situation?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was a party.
Yeah.
So in kind of this theme of talking about, things that are lies perpetuated to kind of push the narrative, this Kavanaugh situation that was super frustrating to me as well. And it's not like it, the most frustrating stuff about all this stuff is you kind of get put in a position to have to defend people that you don't really care to defend. And I've noticed that lately the current political climate has put me in this position far more than I'd like to admit.
Oh yeah.
Like defending Kavanaugh. I have no desire to defend this guy. I really don't. Not a fan of him, but I mean, you think that's where it ends up putting you, right? So I pulled a couple things. So there was, and if anyone listening right now wants to leave a comment when we post this, you can correct me if you wish, if I'm wrong about this, but there was 4 allegations, I believe, around the time when he was coming in. There was the Blasey Ford one, the Julie Swetnick one, which was insane. That was the Avenatti gang rape bit. And then there was a John Doe who made a claim that he witnessed something, and then a Jane Doe. Right. And again, if anyone listening to this is aware of any more of them, please let me know. Bring it to my attention, and I'm more than happy to correct myself. But so I went and did some homework on this, and because I had heard that maybe 1 or 2 of these were allegations. It turned out so one of them, and I have a bit here that was released as the result of an investigation they did, and I'll just read it here. The name is redacted, so I'll just say that. So according to Senator Whitehouse and his committee staff, on the morning of September 24th, 2018, Mr. Name Redacted contacted the senator's office to report an allegation of sexual misconduct by Judge Kavanaugh. Mr. Name Redacted claimed that in August 1985, Kavanaugh sexually assaulted a close acquaintance of Mr. Name Redacted on a boat in the harbor of Newport, Rhode Island. Committee staff took Mr. Name Redacted's allegations seriously and asked Judge Kavanaugh numerous questions about it under penalty of felony during the interview on September 25th, 2018. Categorically denied the allegations. On September 26, 2018, the committee publicly released a redacted transcript of that interview. Mr. Redacted's name redacted. A lot of redacted. Afterwards, at 7:51 p.m. that same evening, Mr. Redacted recanted his allegations and apologized for the allegations via social media. So, bunk, right? There's that one, bunk. Then we have the Jane Doe, who, this is a quote, "I am Jane Doe from Oceanside, California. Kavanaugh raped me," is what she had said. I believe her name, I'm not even going to pronounce her name, but she wrote it on October 3rd in an email claiming to have been a victim of the judge. So Grassley went ahead and did his investigation, and the investigation tried to reach her for a month, but were unsuccessful until the week, I'm not sure when this was, that this was released, when they spoke to her by phone, and she confessed that she was not the original Jane Doe, and she did it to grab attention. She admitted that the false allegation was done so to try and keep Kavanaugh from getting the position that he wanted, and she actually never met Justice Kavanaugh at all.
Classy.
Yeah. So those are those 2. And then if anyone remembers the Swetnick incident, so Grassley investigated that a bit too, and he'd previously asked the FBI to probe Swetnick and her lawyer, Michael Avenatti, for lying to Congress and obstructing. Swetnick had originally claimed to have been the victim of gang rapes involving Justice Kavanaugh during high school parties, saying that she saw him and a friend spike punch to leave girls unable to resist. She later changed her story to say that she saw Justice Kavanaugh and his friend near a punch bowl, but not doing anything to it, and she could not identify them as having actually been a part of any rape. Just let that sink in for a minute. Ew. So there were so many things that were wrong. I mean, we talked about this on that last episode, but there were so many things that were wrong with her story, right? Because if I'm remembering correctly, she said something like, "Oh, these guys have these date rape parties and everyone knew it." And then like the next minute she's like, "So I went to one."
Right.
And kept going to them.
Right, repeatedly.
Makes sense.
And then just for the story to be like this broken down, and there's people that'll still defend this woman, right? So basically sitting there saying that she was a victim of gang rapes involving Brett Kavanaugh during high school parties, to then saying, "Oh, you know what? That's not true. Maybe I saw him and a friend spike the punch bowl." Okay, maybe that's not true. Maybe I saw him and his friend near the punch bowl, but I didn't see them rape anyone. Certainly not me, and I didn't see them spike the punch. What? God damn it.
Damage is already done.
Right.
Lobbing
when
them
you're
grenades.
victimized like that, you don't forget who did it. Like, it's not like details that can just change later. Like, you don't put that out of your mind ever. So,
well,
as soon as that changed, like, it's like, okay, so you're full of shit.
But look, according to them, though, they can't sleep at night, right?
Right. By the faceless people that keep changing constantly, haunting their dreams. Yeah. It's just, and then so among all of that, then you've got Blasey Ford, right? And so this was the woman at the center of all of this, Christine Blasey Ford. And so I pulled up this article from USA Today. And this is from an opinion contributor, but this woman is actually, so she's a former special victims prosecutor, attorney, basically. And she was just kind of looking at this case, and she wrote up something here. And I found it interesting. She's, USA Today isn't the first place you'd think of, to get the anti-left opinions. So I thought it was interesting that it came from here, and it had this to say. So she kind of outlined Blasey Ford's whole situation like this. She said, "I say this not as a former special victims prosecutor or victim rights attorney, or even as a criminal defense attorney. I say this as a matter of common sense and logic. I understand that my perspective is different, and that most, after a decade of analyzing sexual assault claims to determine prosecutorial merit or avenues to acquittal. But our job as attorneys isn't really any different from what all Americans are engaged in. With Kavanaugh, an objective analysis of the facts to determine their merit and draw a reasonable conclusion." So she goes on to talk about some of the things that were kind of weak here. And she ends up saying, "In the world of sexual assault claims, Ford's is pretty flimsy. What day, month, or even year did it happen? Where? How did she get there and back? She admittedly didn't walk several miles home, so who was driving? Did she call her parents? Speaking of her parents, why were they totally absent from any involvement in this? Do they think she's lying? Did they abuse her themselves? Why do the witnesses Ford named claim no memory of this gathering? I could go on, but I won't. Is there a response to each of these items? Sure. Is it compelling? No, and certainly not particularly in a legal sense. Does it mean Ford is lying? No, but does it mean that Kavanaugh is guilty? Absolutely not." So, what's insane is that I think there was a time when we could read this kind of stuff. Most people could read this kind of stuff, and as like rational and reasonable human beings, the response to it would be, okay, there's not much evidence for anything here. You've got three people that are basically pretty clearly lying at this point. And the strongest case that is to be made, as we just heard by someone with a history in investigating this kind of thing, is there's more questions than answers. Right. And this was a giant issue. And what came of it? Believe women. I think that was the narrative that was getting pushed. Believe all women, yeah.
Right.
Which is super dangerous.
Yeah, I don't know why. It's not like any of them are going to lie about anything. And I mean, look, I'm not trying to take the super sexist spin on this, right? But it's like, you've got this movement, they say believe all women, and then here we have, just a few months after all this stuff has happened, that almost none of the women are to be believed.
Well, it's
that
not
situation.
Even a statement. It's all about victim culture and the radicalization of like being a victim today in the political sphere. Like it's very rewarding to be a victim now. And the whole believe all women thing, they're saying that this is a huge jump forward for women, but it's not. It's a step backwards because of all of the reactions to it. Less women are being believed now than they were 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Because of all of these false claims. Like it's hurting women. It's hurting real victims of sexual assault and harassment and all of these other offenses, where we can't come forward now without everyone saying, oh, well, this is just another Me Too thing, or, you're just doing it for attention. I can't blame them for saying any of that because of how saturated the media is with false claims now. It's a joke. Being a victim of sexual assault is now a joke because there's no weight behind it anymore. It's like the boy who cried wolf. Like it's so damaging, and it's really, really triggering to me when people are like, "Oh, believe all women." No, you believe you don't have to believe them, but you can take them seriously. Yes, you can take all claims seriously, but you don't right off the bat condemn the person that they say did something to them. You look at each case on an individual basis and determine guilt or not.
Yeah.
Right. But believe them based on the testimony, not their gender.
Exactly.
Right. And the truth of the situation, right? Like, speaking of episodes we had, right, there was an episode not long ago. Man, why can't I remember this guy's name right now? What is my problem? Who's that dude that we did the whole episode over? Like, Mr. I'm going to go park out in front of your cafe or behind your cafe and try to lure you into my car.
Roy Moore.
That bag of shit, right? So, look, it's not as if that the position here is like, everyone's full of shit that does everything. I mean, like that. There was very clearly that situation it was very clear that the accusers, there was something to those accusations, right? It's just the problem is that what you saw is that the Me Too movement, which I think is by just generally what it was supposed to be on its face and how everything happened with Harvey Weinstein, I thought that was a good thing. I don't think that was a bad thing. I think that someone deciding to speak out against someone in power who was abusing that power, I think that's a good thing. But
it had good intentions, but it wasn't executed well.
Well, I mean, it's hard to say if it was executed well or not, because once it leaves like the small movement and it becomes something that, is now like a collective thing, then it's no one person, right? And then it's kind of hard to put responsibility for anyone on it.
It's also like the compulsion to politicize everything. Like that was a cultural movement, and it became political very quickly because that's where all of the opportunity to get in the spotlight for being a victim is in the political sphere because of Trump, because of the radicalization of both sides. And it's a shame because Me Too could have been something that was really, really positive, but they started off conflating harassment and rape as the same thing. Everyone became very defensive of, that one time that they got catcalled 5 years ago was totally the same as somebody who was raped. Like that was like the biggest issue with the Me Too thing on its face. And then it became political. And then it was like, oh, well, you're a monster or you're part of rape culture if you don't believe every single claim and take them all as seriously as a rape allegation.
And it really got there in light speed, didn't it? It was just like a matter of days.
It was within a month or two that it was completely politicalized.
Well, it's kind of gross, right? Because people saw the power that came with making those claims, and it didn't take long for that to be abused completely. Just people trying to, oh, you know what? I'm going to do this too. and this is going to get me somewhere. And it's bad, man. It's really bad too, because we live now in a society where people take everything as a passing headline and it's fact, right? They don't even need to read the article. They just need to see that passing headline, and then boom, confirmation bias is asserted. I got it. I got what I need. Now I'm going to run with this, and that's it. Right? And it's never a doubling back to make sure that you got something right, or doubling back to go, oh, you know what? That was wrong. I'm going to correct myself there. That's not happening anymore. It's a headline in passing. The headline goes along with confirmation bias, and then you're off to the races. And that's it just gets used as another thing to fuel the outrage culture, and asserting that, yes, I was right, moving on to the next thing.
Yeah, and I think everyone's guilty of that in just about any subject. I mean, I know I've done it. Like, I've, read headlines and kept scrolling, but like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like, and just, I never look into it. And I try and not do that anymore. I used to be really bad about it, especially when I was a Democrat, but I think everyone does that.
It's the level of where politics are at right now. Like, it makes it hard to not want to just be like, aha, take that, AOC, or something like that. Like, you just want to be able to prove people wrong. I think that's just kind of like a natural byproduct of when people are so passionate about something that you don't agree with. So you just relish the moment that something comes up, and you can be like, not today. You were wrong.
I wonder if it's actually gotten worse in recent years, or if it's always been like this, but with social media and how media has really kind of transformed into, or not really transformed, moved onto social media platforms, that it's just become amplified. I don't know.
I think there's a degree of that for sure.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think it's a degree of that, and I think it's also a matter of, like, you were kind of talking about this earlier, but like, it's tough to tell the difference these days between infamy and fame. It almost feels like if your name is out there, you're kind of, you've done it. Right?
Well, I think there is something to that. I think that, as a culture, especially we've always kind of lionized the whistleblower. It's a high esteem position in American culture. And so, the Me Too movement being a perfect example, there were stories that came out at the beginning of that, I mean, you heard Rose McGowan talk, and it's like, holy shit, man. And she's blowing the whistle, and you want to celebrate that. Well, then all of a sudden, everybody wants to jump on that bandwagon, whether they have facts on their side or not. And they want to claim their own, they want to be that person as well. They want to be looked up to and respected. So they make up shit. And it's just, I don't know, chicken before the egg, what part of the culture leads what part, but
right. Well, then what happens is people go out and they make the false stuff, they make the false claims, right? And they get mentioned just as much as if not more than the people that made the legitimate claims. And now, like I said, we're living in this society where there's it's very hard to distinguish the difference between infamy and fame. So it's like I said, if you get your name mentioned, for some people, it almost seems like it's mission accomplished.
Doesn't matter for what. Doesn't matter. Just get it out there.
Yeah. Well, and you see this reflected, like what we were talking about, the rhetoric of people that are like, oh, stop bringing her up. Stop talking about AOC. It's like, you don't, it's like, I'm not sitting here like showering her with compliments, but that's a clear indication that you can tell that it's very, very, very getting very small, the difference between infamy and fame. People are like, stop saying that stuff about her. It's just going to make her more popular. I'm not saying great stuff. Like, when did this happen? When did we just morph into a society to where you can like say bad things or talk in disapproving terms about someone, and people are like, oh, stop pumping her up. What?
Yeah, no.
It's kind of the reverse, like the reverse feminist effect. They're claiming you can't talk about her, you can't criticize her, or else you're a sexist. It's like, but what makes her different from any other politician that gets criticized? Like, are you saying that she is, too fragile to handle that? Are you saying that she's not capable of handling criticism like every other politician. And why is that? Like, they become sexist by saying that you're being sexist. It's something weird I've noticed with the feminist movement lately, is they're becoming what they hate.
I think that's been a problem. I think it's a problem on both sides, but I think it's been a problem on the left for a long time.
It's that horseshoe theory thing.
It's a problem on the right for different reasons, I think. But, Reagan called it the soft bigotry of low expectations. I think you've got that by and large when people look at, an AOC and say, oh, you can't criticize her because she's a woman or because she's a millennial or whatever the reason is. It's like, no, anybody that's saying that kind of crazy ass bullshit, you should be questioning, and
right.
We've lost our way when we say we can't question that kind of shit.
If this was a middle-aged white guy saying all this shit, I would
be
doing the exact same thing. I would make just as many memes.
And the only difference is everybody else would be too.
Yeah. Well, the Democrats would just pretend he didn't exist.
Yeah, right.
No, they call him a racist.
Yeah.
Or something, even if he wasn't, right? It's what's funny is like, you guys also notice like that the intersectional tide has become so strong. Do you remember it wasn't long ago when En Vogue had that song, that colorblind song? Do you remember that song? I'm dating myself here. I know I am.
Yes.
So you remember it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Be colorblind. Don't be so shallow. Burn, burn, burn.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Free your mind.
Yeah, free your mind. That's what it was called. That's not okay anymore. Like Bernie essentially said this not long ago. He came out and he was like, I don't want to, I don't see color. I don't think about that. People are just people. And like the whole intersectional crowd was like, how dare he?
Yeah.
How dare he? Like, when did this become a bad position to take? When did it become bad to be like, look, I'm not going to judge people by their race. I'm just going to judge them by the people that they are. And now all of a sudden, like, this is a bad thing.
Conflating, being colorblind with whitewashing, I guess. I've seen people talk about this in some of the lefty groups. I mean,
I think that's true. Some people think that if you're not looking at somebody's race, you're not understanding their struggle, and you can't compare them to you. And it's like, whoa. I mean, I don't know. I was raised late 70s, early 80s. I mean, we were, there was still pockets of racism a lot deeper than there are now, and we were raised. I went to a very mixed school. You're all the same, and it's like, all right, so which is it? Are we all the same? Are we all God's children? Are we all the same color underneath? Or are we all supposed to go into our different groups and, we can't, I can't enjoy something from your culture. I can't enjoy a pizza, Vinny, because I'm Irish,
Right.
I mean, where does it stop? And what's it supposed to be?
Right.
I think the underlying goal of all of that was you can still recognize differences and celebrate differences. You just can't judge based on those differences.
Which is the ideal, for sure.
Exactly. And that's where the colorblind things comes in. It's like you're kind of diminishing the struggles that minorities have gone through or something. Or I mean, I don't believe this, but this is kind of what the whole,
the argument
being against colorblind comments and stuff is.
Mm-hmm.
So
and
it's again understandable, but it's frustrating because I try to teach my own children, don't. These things that you see on the surface are superficial. That doesn't mean that we don't enjoy things from different cultures and we don't take time to learn about them. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. It doesn't mean ignore culture, and it doesn't mean ignore the things that make people from different backgrounds unique. But it does mean don't judge individuals based on stereotypes. Judge them on who they are as individuals. Right, which is not. I don't think that that's a hateful position. I don't think that that's an ignorant position.
It's definitely not.
I mean, Martin Luther King taught it, and with good reason. The content of your character.
Right. Yeah. Right, but now
it's
any port in a storm.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Anything to be able to be outraged. And so,
what a time to be alive.
I know it. And so I mentioned this Daily Caller episode. We have a little bit of time left. I wanted to run through these. I'm just going to kind of read some of these out. You guys go ahead, Feel free, interrupt me, make comments or whatever as you feel fit. This was an interesting article to me. I'll go ahead and link it in the show notes. It's something that I wasn't even aware of. If you were going to ask me how many things were faked in, the time, basically in the quote unquote Trump era, I wouldn't have known I wouldn't have guessed there were this many. I guess I'm just as guilty of kind of being blind to some of this stuff as we've been talking about. But so here we've got the list. So the first anti-Muslim hate crime in Michigan turns out to be a hoax. November 2016. This is a Muslim woman at the University of Michigan received national attention from outlets like the Washington Post in November 2016 after she claimed a drunk 20-something-year-old man threatened to light her on fire if she didn't remove her hijab. The university condemned the hateful attack, which later turned out to be a hoax. Bisexual student fakes Trump-inspired hate crime, November 2016. You notice a lot of these are in November 2016, or just kind of around there where the presidency, where the everyone's favorite election went down. So Taylor Volk, an openly bisexual senior at North Park University, claimed to be the target of hateful notes and emails following Trump's election in November 2016. Volk told NBC News, "I just want them to stop." But the them referenced by Volk turned out to be herself, as the whole thing was fabricated. And for anyone listening, there are links included in this article too. So it's not just someone making an article and talking out of their ass. Gas station racism goes viral. Then police debunk it again. November 2016, Philadelphia woman Ashley Boyer claimed in November 2016 that she was harassed at a gas station by white Trump-supporting males, one of whom pulled a weapon on her. Boyer claimed that the men proceeded to talk about the election and how they're glad that women don't have to deal with bleep much longer. Boyer deleted her post after it went viral and claimed that the men had been caught and were facing criminal charges. Local police later completely debunked her account. Man, what was it? I saw something after this Josie Smollett stuff came out. It was a good way of putting it. When the supply of racism doesn't meet the demand,
right?
This is the result.
Yeah. When we were kids, and maybe it's a culture thing, I don't know, maybe it's a age thing, but I remember reading The Boy Who Cried Wolf and learning valuable life lessons from it. And it just seems, these things that people are saying are happening that are happening in some places. And all you do is harm those people.
Yeah.
The victims of that shit that actually happens. There's people who aren't being listened to because your dumbass had to get on the news. It's just... Yeah,
and it keeps going.
Sad here. Indictment, man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it keeps going. You got, November 2016, white men rob Muslim woman of her hijab and wallet, except it never happened. This is an 18-year-old Muslim woman in Louisiana claiming that in November 2016, two white men, one of whom was wearing a Trump hat, attacked and robbed her, taking her wallet and hijab while yelling racial slurs. She later admitted to the Lafayette Police Department that she made the whole thing up. Another November 2016, church organist vandalizes his own church. I think the headline does a well enough job of explaining that. December 2016, drunk white men attack Muslim woman in story that also never happened. 18-year-old Muslim woman, this time in New York, was a subject of breathless headlines in December 2016 after she claimed to have been attacked by a group of Donald Trump supporters in a New York subway while onlookers did nothing. The woman would go on... I
remember that one.
Yeah, the woman, Yasmin Sued, I'm sucking at that name, would go on to confess that she made the whole thing up. White guy sets his own car on fire, paints racial slur on his own garage. December 2016. This guy was brave too. Denton, Texas. Resident David Williams set his own car on fire and painted N-word lovers on his home's garage in an apparent attempt to stage a hate crime. Big balls. Put that on your garage door.
Wow.
Yeah.
This was a white guy?
Yeah. Yeah, he just wanted to spell it.
That was his inward path.
Right. Local police investigated the arson as a hate crime. Williams and his wife, Jenny, collected more than $5,000 from Good Samaritans via a GoFundMe page before the hoax was exposed. Damn.
Jeez.
Prankster tricks liberal journalists into spreading anti-Trump hoax, December 2016. This one's pretty funny. As tales of Trump-inspired hate crimes were spread far and wide by liberal journalists after Trump's election, one online prankster decided to test just how easy it was to fool journalists. The prankster sent Mike.com writer Sarah Harvard a fictitious story in which a Native American claimed to have been harassed by an alleged Trump supporter who thought she was Mexican. Despite no evidence backing the claim, Harvard spread the fake story. Emails the prankster shared with the Daily Caller has showed this to be true.
See, that one I have to think's like shooting fish in a barrel. I mean, tricking a reporter to run with a negative story about Trump, but that's low hanging fruit, man.
I mean, it's like you said though, like, right? We weren't we taught this? It's as if
right.
It's as if these were never learned. So that last one was December 2016. It looks like things were pretty mellow in January for the most part, and then February 2017, student writes anti-Muslim graffiti on his own door. April 2017, Israeli man behind anti-Semitic bomb threats in the U.S. These headlines are so fun. And it's like you read it, it's absolutely true. They have links to everything. Media outlets didn't wait to find out who was behind the string of bomb threats targeting synagogues and Jewish schools before linking the threats to Trump. A U.S. Israeli man was charged in April 2017 and indicted in February 2018 for the threats. Former reporter of The Intercept was also charged in March 2017 with making several copycat threats. May 2017, hoax at St. Olaf. Students at St. Olaf College in Minnesota staged protests and boycotted classes in May 2017 after racist notes targeting black students were found around campus, earning coverage in national media outlets like the Washington Post. It later came out that the black student was responsible for the racist notes. The student carried out the hoax in order to draw attention to concerns about the campus climate. The university announced the campus climate that you are creating, apparently.
Yeah, it totally makes sense.
Fake hate at Air Force Academy goes viral. September 2017. The Air Force Academy was thrown into turmoil in September 2017 when the horrific racist notes were found at the Academy's preparatory school. Go home N-word, read one of the notes. The superintendent, Lieutenant Gary J.B. Silveria, went viral with an impassioned speech addressing the notes where he said, "If you can't treat someone with dignity and respect, then you need to get out." 2 months later, authorities determined that one of the students targeted by the notes was also the person responsible for writing them. I hate to laugh, but God. It goes on. K-State, fake hate crime, November 2017. A student at Kansas State University filed a police report in November 2017 over racist graffiti left on his car. Go home N-word boy. And whites only, read the racist graffiti, which the student later admitted to writing himself. Racist graffiti carried out by non-white student, November 2017. Another instance of racist graffiti that same month also turned out to be a hoax. Missouri high school investigated after racial slurs were left on the bathroom mirror in November 2017, only to find out that the student responsible was non-white himself. Some of these are just...
It's almost like people are nostalgic for a time that we got past. It's the weirdest shit, man.
It's funny these are happening in like Kansas and Missouri. Like they couldn't wait 20 minutes for an actual racist thing to happen. They had to make one themselves. Like it's pretty common.
I mean, but is it like if you're having to manufacture this? I mean, I guess so. I don't live out there. I'm in no position.
The comments and stuff are common. I guess like graffiti and shit is not common, but still.
Setting someone's car on fire.
It's all internalized now, not externalized.
Setting someone's car on fire and writing the N-word on garage doors isn't happening a lot out where you're at?
No.
Not so much anymore.
Weird.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we can...
Only in November of 2016, man.
Right.
It's really funny, though. Like, they're always talking about the significance of hate crimes and having that classification for crimes, and how, the difference between a regular crime and a hate crime is that it instills fear in the community against the people it was targeting. So they're making these fake hate crimes and admittedly instilling fear in the community of the people that they're targeting. Like, they're purposefully creating fear and inciting all of these feelings in these communities that they're saying they're trying to protect.
It's like
That's
they're committing
disgusting.
a hate crime themselves.
Yes, it really is.
Yeah.
Like, if
And
that's what we're going to go against, you have conservatives saying there shouldn't be anything, any such thing as a hate crime. Those things are already crimes. And that's their argument, is saying, it creates this, aura of fear. They're doing this. Like, by their own standards, they should be charged with hate crimes for staging their hate crimes.
Yeah. Jussie Smollett wasn't trying to make people happy, He wasn't trying to instill joy in anybody.
No.
He was trying to scare the shit out of people and,
and get more money.
Right. And attention. And it's just,
his case is really disturbing because it turns out that he sent himself a fake letter.
Yep.
And when people didn't pay enough attention to his fake letter, he went and staged this instead.
Right.
Just something else. Okay. We'll go on. There's more. So, waiter fakes note calling himself a terrorist, July 2018. Waitress fakes racist note, blames law enforcement, July 2018. New York woman's hate crime that wasn't a hate crime. New York woman charged in September 2018 after police determined she fabricated a story about white teens yelling racial slurs at her and leaving a racist note on her car. Student faking racist notes, December 2018. And then it goes on to talk about the Covington catastrophe. And there's a couple bonus ones here. Anti-Semitic vandal exposed as Democratic activist. Anti-Semitic vandalism in New York City turned out to be the work of a Democratic activist, according to the police. It wasn't a hoax, but the anti-Semitic vandalism was real. But the suspect wasn't the right-winger that some had assumed him to be. The man police arrested, based on the surveillance footage, was a 26-year-old James Polite, who had actually interned at City Hall on anti-hate issues. And then there's a second bonus. Trump-inspired racist blaze at Black Church was carried out by a Black church goer. So there's those. That's the whole list that I had here, and it just God help us. I don't know. It's a dangerous time.
It really is.
Yeah. I saw something and it made me laugh at first. And then I actually really stopped to think about it. And it's like, I think, what did the meme say? It was just some dumb meme, and I saw it in passing on Reddit, and it really did make me think after I saw it. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but it was something like, MAGA hats aren't so much worn by hateful people, but they sure do expose them, or something like that. And I just scrolled past it real quick, but man, it stuck with me because it's like that boy, if that hat isn't like a Rorschach test, for society these days, right? It's just a fucking hat. Who cares, right? Yeah, Trump sucks, but it's just a hat. Like, if you know someone's a Trump supporter, is the hat really going to push it over the edge? Of course, there's bound to be people that you interact with on a day-to-day basis that are Trump supporters. The fact is that it's kind of true. I've known people that have worn the hat, and they're not walking around starting fights with people and writing the N-word on people's garage doors and setting people's cars on fire. But what we have seen a lot of is people getting accosted for wearing the hat or getting denied service in places for having the hat on and things of that nature. So that was interesting to me. I scrolled past it, like I said, and I thought, oh, that's funny. And 2 minutes later, I'm like, wait a minute. Well, there might be something to that, unfortunately. Because like the stuff. Go ahead.
I saw one of those videos the other day where some kids, he's on a college campus or whatever, and he's wearing his MAGA hat, and and then some other kid comes up and gets in his face and starts punching him, and it's like, dude, I mean,
yeah, I saw that too.
Dude, I mean, come on, man. He's wearing a fucking hat. And like you said, Trump's an idiot. And I mean, I'm going to walk by the guy and probably think he's a fucking idiot too. But I'm not going to go assault his ass over a hat.
No.
And this is the type that's saying, oh my God, these Trump people are so horrible, and they're out and they're committing all these hate crimes. And it's like, dude, you just punched this kid in the face for a fucking hat.
Yeah. Yeah. Over a hat.
Over a fucking hat.
Yeah. I mean, and look, I'm sure there is a list of actual hate crimes that have gone on in the Trump era too, and that's probably a pretty shitty list to read, right? So I don't want to make the whole point of this to completely discredit anything that really goes on, but that's part of the problem is in some circles it does, because now you have, you do have a lot of that MAGA crowd that's like, well, see, this guy was making up that whole attack. That means they're all bullshit. Well, no, they're not all bullshit. But that's not so much on the MAGA guy as it is on people like Smollett and all these other people perpetrating these crimes against themselves. The blood's on your hands, folks, if shit goes down. Because, there are very real hate crimes happening. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I don't know. It's very frustrating hearing these people make up these kind of stories, and then they don't want to be held accountable for what follows when people, again, we go back to the whole boy that cried wolf thing. Yeah. Well, and how is it not a hate crime like what you're talking about, right? Like, and this is, I'll go right back to what I was saying before. Like, I hate having to be in positions to have to defend people. Like, and so in this episode, I feel like I'm having to defend Trump or defend Trump supporters. This is
exactly
not the position I wanted to be in.
Not at all. I get it, man. I feel the same way.
Like that video that you're talking about, that was like a Turning Point USA kid, right? Not usually where I find my most compelling content that I'm going to engage in. I'm
typically not feeling a bunch of sympathy for those people either.
Right, but people want to talk about hate crimes. Oh, the guy just wearing a MAGA hat, just getting hauled off, get punched in the face. Like, what is that?
Right.
What are we calling that? What is this?
Is that free speech?
Is that
yeah,
it's bad. It's bad. I have a feeling it'll only get worse, but I mean, who knows, right? Like, it's at this point where the voice of reason is just. You're just labeled as another thing that they hate, another part of the big problem.
Well, and that's it. You bring up a story like that, and all of a sudden you get labeled, well, you're one of those MAGA people too. No, the fuck I ain't, man. I'm furthest thing you'll ever know from it. But that
truth is truth. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. It's just fucking wrong. I mean, you're justifying, I remember somebody at I think it was a video from one of the Kavanaugh protests. There's this guy holding up a sign, and he ain't doing shit, man. He's just holding up his fucking sign, as stupid as it may be. But you've got these kids dancing around and jerking the sign out of his hand, pushing him around, and it's like,
yeah,
who's the wrong party here? I don't feel threatened by the guy with the stupid sign.
Right. But if a Nathan Phillips walks up to a group of kids in MAGA hats banging his drum as he approaches them. Right, then those kids are bad, but to people from the left that are accosting a guy standing there minding his own business, holding a sign, that's fine.
You still have people that think these kids should be punished for something, and in the meantime, you don't hear shit about a kid wearing a MAGA hat getting punched in the face, or or somebody daring to go to a fucking Trump rally through a line of protesters who start throwing fucking bottles and shit at them, and it's, I don't want to take these people's side either, but damn, man, you're painting me in a corner if you're going to say that I'm wrong because I defend that.
Yeah. Look, the whole reason I came to finding a lot of these, the groups that we're in now online and stuff is because I saw a conversation happening, leading up to the election where a longtime friend of mine was having a conversation, like a political conversation with a friend of theirs, and they were just basically like calling Trump Satan, and like that everything he did was just absolutely horrible. And then I didn't love Trump then either, right? But there, I remember something that I was reading, and there was like some false stuff in there, right? And so I just kind of jumped in, and I was just attempted to be the voice of reason, like, hey, like, trust me, there's a laundry list of reasons why you can think that that Donald Trump is terrible, and more likely than not, we share the same opinion on most of the things on that laundry list, if not all of it. But that doesn't mean that every single thing that he says or that he does or that happens is just coming on like, you know, a direct line from the underworld, right? Like you can't have that outlook on stuff. Like I'll even say the same for AOC, right? Alexandria Ocasio Cortez, for all of her faults and all this stuff that she says it's terrible. You know, she's great at generating grassroots support. I actually do think that she actually speaks on cronyism like really, really fucking well. You know, to give her some credit. Have you guys heard her actually like talk about some of that stuff?
Oh yeah, there's things that she says that, yeah, you can see she might fire some folks up, and there's a grain of truth in a lot of it.
And a lot of like her reasoning behind a lot of her positions is in line with libertarian thinking, but she just takes the wrong turn at the end and goes democratic socialist.
Yeah, it starts talking about banning cow farts and just blows it all up.
Right.
That was insane. But yeah,
I can't get over that. Cracks me up.
So that I know it's no more air travel. We're going to ban cow farts. So I think it's really, really important to just try to be a voice of reason. I don't know if anyone listening will take anything from this, but you know, there's nothing wrong with pointing to someone that everyone hates and saying, hey, you know what? Not everything they do is the worst thing in the world, and we should be able to recognize even when dumb people that we don't like do the right things, right? Like there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, that's, you know, I try to teach my kids to question everything, except me, of course. But you know, seriously,
right.
Question everything, and we need a dose of that in the way that people view politics right now. Don't run with whatever fantastic fucking story somebody makes up. Dig into it just a little, you know?
Yep. And so, yep. And I just wanted to, before we close out here, I notice a lot of people like to always say, oh, you libertarians always complaining, always talking about stuff that goes wrong, never offer any solutions. So I want to make it a point to try and mention solutions to the issues that I talk about, right? So we kind of ran through a whole bunch of stuff that is turned out to be false, right? And this kind of more so pertains to like the long list of hoax hate crimes that we went through. And I thought of this when I was thinking about that situation. I'm sure you guys are familiar, that girl that was texting her boyfriend. And he ended up killing himself.
Killed himself. Yeah. And people were really divided on this. And you know, there's a big group of obviously libertarian folks who want to say that she didn't do anything wrong. There shouldn't be any trouble. There was no crime committed. And there's a lot of people that, you know, even libertarians that didn't agree with that. And it got me thinking of a solution that I think would work here too in a lot of these situations with these hate crimes. And that is, so you think of the crypto technology, right? Cryptocurrency technology deals with blockchains. I don't necessarily think that, so I just kind of disagree with prisons as a whole, right? And so I don't think that girl sending those text messages necessarily be put in jail. I don't think the same for any of these people that faked these hoaxes or whatever. I don't know if they were, but when you talk about how do you punish something like that, or how do you de-incentivize something like that, how do you give a consequence to that, right, without it being like really authoritarian, or without throwing someone in a cage or doing something of that manner. And I think about the blockchain, and transparency solves so many problems. In my experience, transparency really does solve so many problems. And can you imagine if there was a blockchain that just basically
like, I haven't worked out all the details, but let's say there's some manner to verify that the things put on this block are true, right? Like it can't get onto the block unless you can verify for sure that it's true, right? So you have that situation like the girl with the text messages. I don't think there's any question at this point that she did what she did, right? Everyone's pretty much agreed that happened. I think the same goes with all of these hoaxes that have come up and stuff like that. You know, it would be a just fine punishment, in my opinion, if there was some kind of blockchain, right? And it's just like maybe it exists in the form of a website where you can look these ledgers up and you just type in someone's name, right? And so you have this girl who sent those text messages to her boyfriend. No, I don't think she should be put in jail, and no, I don't think that there should be any egregious punishment there. What would be cool, I think, or what would at least not cool, that sounds a little evil, but what might be a just way to handle a situation like that is putting her on a ledger. So if she goes to get a job or does anything where someone has to rely on her to be a responsible individual in any way, shape, or form, they can type her name in and they can see, oh, you're the chick. So what's this all I'm hearing that you that I'm reading about? You basically talked a kid into killing himself and told him to do it. Right? Let that follow them around. Right? Don't put them in jail. Don't put them in the prison. Don't just let it follow them around. The same thing with these hoax hate crimes. Right? If you want to go out there and you want to do something like that, hey, that's, I guess, that's your prerogative. But if there's definitive proof that what you did was a hoax, then that can go on that ledger too. And then people can look that up and they can go, oh, so you do want to work here, but I also noticed that you wrote a letter to yourself calling yourself the N-word, or you wrote all that terrible crap on your garage door and set your car on fire. Right? And like that is going to punish people quite a bit. And it's not going to cost $50,000 a year to keep them housed and fed and taken care of. So I don't know. I'm sure people will listen to this and tell me reasons why they think that this approach might be terrible. I'm just trying to do my best.
It's a valid approach, though. I mean, at least for these nonviolent crimes, stuff like that. Like, it's definitely a way to save money, because what does it cost? I mean, to host a website and maintain a blockchain? It's like nothing. You're going to save a crap ton of tax money. You're not, compounding the situation. Tax money's already been spent to investigate these things. You don't need to spend more by punishing them and throwing them in jail. Like, right. Either you could fine them, which I have, seen some people say is one solution, which I don't know if I agree with, but it is a possibility. You could fine them, or this ledger system. Like, that's a really good idea.
It's immutable. That's one of the cool things about this kind of stuff, is once it's there, it's there. So that's why I said, like, you want to make sure that you can prove this kind of stuff. You certainly don't want to have it to where anyone can submit anything at any time and have it end up on there, and then you get into the same stuff that we talked about before, when people can just put anything anywhere. But if it was somewhere that was able to be vetted and verified, and then it exists on a ledger that people can just look up, that I think could be very effective. And yeah, I mean, there's got to be other solutions other than paying essentially someone's full annual salary to keep prisoners alive and fed. It just that whole construct just seems totally backwards to me. Like, someone committed a crime against you or someone that you didn't know, so you and a bunch of people that you don't know have to pay to keep this person alive and in a cage. Doesn't make any sense. Maybe that's another podcast topic, but all right. Well, I've gone on quite a bit, but I just wanted to try to put some kind of a solution in there. Anything that you guys want to say on that front as far as those kind of things go before we close out here?
I think I covered everything.
Yeah. Good talk.
Yeah. This was a good one. This was nice. A little laid back chat about a bunch of liars.
About this crazy world.
After the heated episodes lately, a nice laid back episode is what we needed.
Oh God, I know. Don't even get me started. Okay. All right. Well, for everyone that decided to listen to this episode, thank you very much. If you could, please go ahead and whatever platform that you listen to this on, go leave us a review and rate us. It really helps us out. And tell a friend. The best way that we're able to make this network any bigger is by people going out and telling a friend that it exists. To my guests, thank you very much, you guys, for joining. I enjoyed it, and I thought this was a great conversation. And whether or not anyone likes it, we will probably be back again.